Hello everybody, my name is Savio and this is another OpenSwoole video. Today we'll install Eloquent in our application. Let's see. So here we are. Uh, this is going to be a long video, but for a good reason. Let's try to keep it short and let's begin. First of all, to start with Eloquent installation, we need the dependencies, right? So let's start with the composer dependencies. To install Eloquent, just going to go on terminal and require the composer dependencies. So I assume that you know how to use composer. If not, you can go to composer website, PHP composer, and search more. At this point, I believe you already did that. Let's begin. Composer require illuminate database, which is Laravel's package. So now we have Eloquent installed in our application. We're not going to start right away to jump into Eloquent. First of all, the steps that we're going to go from now is, now that we have Eloquent installed in our application, we're going to go and prepare our application to run a few procedures. Because as you saw before, to start to initialize our database and see the database, we have two files. This, where I manually connect via PDO and insert the example data, and this other here, where I manually go with that PDO and I create a table. So now we're not going to do that anymore. What we're going to do is we're going to run the migrations and the seeds via Eloquent. In order to do that, I will need a proper way, now that we are doing a better design of the things that we are building, we need a better way for us to go there and execute commands. So in order to do that, I also going to add another dependency on our application, and this other dependency is Symfony console. That's it. Now that we have Symfony console installed, we'll be able to prepare some commands to be executed in our command line in a way where is more advanced than simply use the PHP's argv. We can also do that. We can use many other libraries. The library of choice of mine is Symfony's console. So let's go there and see the way that I propose to do that. So as we saw in the previous video, we start the application right here. So let's go there, and the best place for us to process incoming commands is going to be somewhere around this place, and the best place possible is before the Swoole server start. So let's go here and let's add to do call commands initialization. Okay, so now that we have this in hand, what we're going to do is we're going to create a method, and this method is going to be process commands. So we don't need to call this from outside. We're just calling this method from inside. So private static function process commands. Okay, so we're going to need our slim instance, and this is just going to start or no secret there. So this initialization of the process commands that gives a true or false is based on the fact that we are going to check if the current execution is for a command, a known command, or if it's just a server initialization. Because as you saw, the way we initialize our server is like this. Okay, so we are not going to break the application by understanding every CLI call as a command like this. So for that, we're going to first to grab our input instance like this. Get that's actually like this, and there in that method we are going to grab the input from the console. So let's go there. Okay, so the output of this class is going to be input interface. Okay, so this input interface, I already have some code prepared. Let's go in parts. First of all, I need to have the argv, and then I pull the I pull an instance of console output, which is going to be the command that like writes in the console if I need. Okay, so now I'm going to prepare some input definition, which are the commands that I'm expecting to happen at some point. So here I prepare already a command. The first one is action. So the first parameter, the first argument after index.php is going to be the action. So if I call php index.php do something, this do something is going to be an action. And I also expect another parameter, which is an option, which is fresh. An option is something that you call like this, for example. First argument, for example, can be like migrate, and the second argument is an option. So an option is usually like this option, you know. So in this case, it's fresh, and option usually has value, so it's fresh, true, you know. But in this case, I'm saying that it doesn't have an argument. Value, no. This is how it's used with options without arguments in the Symfony console library. So now we have these two arguments prepared. Okay, so now we're going to check the argument input and return it. Actually, we're going to return the argument attribute. In case it doesn't exist, we write something, or in case like something unexpected is in place. Okay, so let's use exception and all. So here it is, the arg input. I'm processing it and returning the input interface. This is how we use the Symfony console. So now, if something if something goes wrong, there was an error while starting the application. So just in case, for example, there's like an option that is not expected here, this is going to be thrown, okay? And then we exit. Otherwise, we return, and at this point here, we have an input interface, okay? So with this input interface, what I'm going to do is I'm going to check for two actions, okay? So let me just comment this, some code that I prepared ahead of time. So at this point, we have the possibility of the action being migrate or being seed. If it's none of those, if I'm passing like a random action, I'm just going to ignore for now, and then I return false, okay? So if it's an action, a known action, I return true. If it's an unknown action, I return false, okay? And then we are going to call this right here. So the way to do this is like this. So in case the process commands return true is a known command, I'm not starting the server, and I'm going to return here. In case is a not known command, or if there is no action passed, I start the server. Okay, so this is what I'm doing. So if it's like this, I start the server. If it's like this, I don't start the server. Simple as that. Now that we have some commands being processed, let's test. I'm going to call this instance right here, for example, and let's write something. Write line running migrate, and here running seed and returning true. Okay, so let's test PHP index.php migrate, running migrate, perfect, and running seed. Okay, it worked as expected. Now we have the commands behaving as expected here. Now we can start building our seed. So to move forward, let's do a small cleanup here. In the home controller, previously, we had this show users, show user. I'm going to delete them all. And I'm going to delete the view 2 and the view 3, okay? So let's go there, delete the view 2 and the view 3. Let's do this small cleanup here. I'm going to also remove this show users and show user handlers. We don't need them anymore. They were just for the purpose of an example. And now we go in routes and delete whatever was calling that, which is show user and show users right here. So these two endpoints, okay? So now we have a small cleanup. Let's go back. Let's build first the migration. So that I'm going to create another directory inside DB called models to keep it organized. Models. And I'm going to delete these two classes that we don't need anymore. And let's start by building the migration class. The migration class is going to be right here. Migration. Okay, and inside the migration, I have the method handle. Okay, so I have something here for us. And this handle is going to be the method that is going to receive the call and process whatever that this command is doing. So first of all, I'm going to begin handling this call. I'm going to create the migrate users. The migrate users is going to simply run the migration, creating the table in case it doesn't exist, and write table created successfully. So to be able to write, again, we bring the output from the console output, and we will need now the model to know which table we're going to create. So now we pause this migrate class construction and we go to the models. Let's create our model user, and this moment the user is going to extend the Eloquent model. So let's go there, Eloquent model, and let's start to specify a few things. Protected connection. The connection is going to be the default. I believe I didn't need to specify this, but I'm just going to protected table. So I specify the name of the database table, and fillable, where I specify which fields I can update. Okay, so let's see. I want name field, I want email field, and I want password. Okay, that's what we need. Now that we have our model, Eloquent model ready, we can go back to migration and continue our work there. And first of all, I'm going to bring a new instance of our recently created model. Now I have the output in the user instance. I'm going to invoke some dependencies. Now we pause this right here again, and we run to our dependencies. And now we are going to build our Eloquent dependency. So to build our Eloquent dependency, we're going to create a new method here to take care of that. And this new method is going to be register DB capsule. Okay, this you can find this in the Eloquent documentation for that. And there, I already have some code prepared, which is basically the code that they offer in their documentation. I'm going to get the container as usual, and I'm going to set that whenever I call DB in our dependency injection container, I'm going to return the capsule, the Eloquent capsule, which keeps our connection to the database. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to close this call right here, and then because this is as dependency injection, just a quick action here, so we can always have available inside this application the connection. We can do like this, okay? In order to open the connection. Further in the road, what we might do with this is we are going to get the DB instance whenever we need, and we are going to close the connection in other moments. So we don't keep this connection always open in order to save connections for multi-threading or other necessities out there. So with this in hand, now we can connect to our database. First of all, we are going to review now our credentials. So I already have some credentials ready for us to be able to connect. So if we go there, the database, let's see if these credentials are okay. They do match the credentials that I have prepared. So with this in hand, we'll be able to properly connect to our database. Okay. So now I just need to invoke this right here. So we register the DB capsule where we need it. Okay. So now we have the DB capsule available through the dependency injection container, and we go back to our migration and we get it there so we can run the migration procedures. Okay, at this point, we already have our model, we already have our console available for us from Symfony console, and we have our database connection available for us via Eloquent. So now I'm going to check if the database, the table exists or not. If it doesn't, if it does actually, I'm going to drop, just in case we call the fresh. And here is something. I added the second parameter here, which is called fresh, true or false. If it's fresh, I want to delete if it exists in order to recreate. If I pass as false, I'm not going to delete if it already exists, and I'm going to ignore and say this table already exists. Okay, so let's go there. Not necessarily table, necessarily table already exists. Okay, so now what we have here is we check again if the table exists. If it doesn't exist, we're going to create. To create is that old Laravel migration code that some developers might be used to. And after creation, go here and say table created successfully. Else, we go here and write that the table already exists because it would have returned true here. Okay, so if it returns true here, it's false and necessarily goes this way unless the fresh is true, and in that case I'm going to create because I just deleted. Okay, so that's basically what we're doing here. We are going to be migrating our users this way. Now the only piece missing here is to call it this way. So we just get the fresh option from the input. Okay, so this is our migration code. So if we go back to our app, this is our migration code right here. We are passing the input that we are getting the instance here, and we are passing this command here in order to execute the migration. So now might be the best time for us to check if this is working or not. Let's see if it's working. I'm going to connect to our database on PHP MyAdmin. And here's our database, existent database, and I'm going to run the migration. Okay, table created successfully. If we refresh, users table as expected with all the fields, okay, including the timestamps. Now we already have our migration. Now we're going to create our seeds. So let's go back there and create our class seed. And that class seed, we're going to do the same as before. We're going to create our handle method as a common interface. I'm not creating an interface right now. Might be a good idea, but let's leave to a later moment. And this is a suggestion of mine. This project here is still recent. We have only a few videos digging into it. So my suggestion is to wait a few cycles before you start creating interfaces, in case you don't have solidified yet what the requirements are, what you want. Okay, so if you have a solid intention, like you know exactly how it must be, you already have the abstractions in your head, I suggest you to go ahead and create the interface. Otherwise, I would leave the interface for a later moment whenever possible. Okay, so this is what we're doing here. I'm leaving the interface to a later moment. I'm trying to focus on the interface, but I'm not going to create in order to formalize right now. Just that. I'm not saying that we are not going to create an interface. Okay, so let's go there now and create the method that is actually going to execute the seed procedure. And in this method, of course, I'm going to write something in the console again. So let's bring the console output here, and then we're going to create some records. So if you're used to Laravel seeds, this will be the way for you to do it. It's very simple. Now I'm just going to try catch in order to tell the user eventual errors, such as trying to insert the same email twice. Okay, so let's catch every exception here. Let's include the namespace area. Okay, and that will be it. But when catching errors, we are going to print to the console that it failed insert record with the following errors. Okay, otherwise I'm going to double check if the user is not null, which also results in errors. So Eloquent, when you try to create and it doesn't create this user variable, it will come out null, and this is what I'm checking here. Otherwise, if everything passes, successfully inserted. Okay, so now we're just going to call this method from handle, and that will be it for us. Let's just double check on our app and call it right here. So I'm not sure here, I'm already calling, so all good at this moment. Let's do index seed record inserted successfully. So let's go there and see, browse right there. My record is created. So now I have Eloquent installed, running migrations and seeding in our database via console command. So now that we have the user, let's test the rest of our application and see if we need to do something else. Okay, and of course we need. We didn't implement the models yet, but I just want to see the errors. Look localhost logging. Let's see the error that comes out of it. Okay, the errors probably because the model is being used in a different manner than we expect this to be used as. So let's go there and refactor the logging form, the logging controller. So let's go there and check what do we need to change. First of all, this model doesn't exist anymore. And the logging form, no need to change there. Here it is. We have user models. So what we can do, because this is Eloquent, we can call like this. Let's import the model, email first. So I'm calling email first. I'm not verifying if it exists yet. I'm not going to move towards that. I'm just fixing so we can close this video. And then the data password, the user password, okay? And here it is, session user, another call here. Okay. Now log out handler. I'm just clearing the session. This is probably it for this case. Go there, load the form again. No, there's another error. At the admin controller. So this part worked, but we are also showing the username at the admin area, and this is what failed. So let's go there and fix it there as well. So, okay, importing, we are finding by the user ID. That's what we're doing. And once we have it, we're going to change this call to be more like Eloquent expects. And that should be it for this case. Let's see. Let's load this form again. So yep, it worked fine. This error here is just the redirection, which is a unknown issue. So if I go to the home page, logging, it redirects directly to the admin area. And if I log out, everything works as expected. So that's it for today. We added Eloquent, we implemented the model, we implemented the migration, the seed, and console commands for us to be able to orchestrate all of that. I hope you enjoyed. Let's continue in the next video. This video was a little longer than expected, but it was just for us to wrap all of this in one video. Okay, see you in the next one.